Here is the Crescendo Music Education Podcast, episode number 34. This podcast is being recorded on the lands of the Turrbal people. I acknowledge them as the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. They were the first music makers on this land. In this episode, I talk to Bill Henry from Mr. Henry's Music World. We have a chat about his journey as a music educator and gratitude, his YouTube channel, his podcast. We talk about how he makes the videos, and then we talk a little further about how teachers can use them in their music classroom. I think you will find this episode very interesting and useful. I would appreciate it if you could leave a rating and a comment on whichever platform you're using. It would really help me if you did that. Thanks. Sit back and enjoy listening to Bill Henry. Hello, Mr. Bill Henry. Welcome to the Crescendo Music Education Podcast.
Hey there. Thanks so much for having me.
It is really exciting to connect with you, especially since I'm only just getting to know of your work. So I'm looking forward to this podcast so that you can lead me and any other listeners that might not know all of the things that you do. You can lead us to get to know you and all of the things that you provide for us as music teachers.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
It's exciting that we can meet via Zoom. Now, I'm going to start by reading just a brief bio so that everybody knows where we're at here. So, Bill Henry, which a lot of people may know of you as Mr. Henry. Bill Henry is a seasoned elementary music teacher, presenter, and creator of the popular YouTube channel Mr. Henry's Music World, which offers high-quality, entertaining videos for music teachers and kids with millions of views across the channel. Bill is also the co-creator and producer of the music podcast for kids, which was featured in the New York Times as one of the top music audio shows for kids in the world. That actually sounds quite flash. Tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Oh, that was so I was actually on vacation. And all of a sudden I got a text from my wife's aunt, and she said, Bill, I am sitting here reading the New York Times and your podcast, they're talking about your podcast in here. And I'm like, what? How is that even really? And thinking that maybe it was, she just misunderstood. But then she ended up sending the article. She took a picture of it and sent it. And it was kind of strange because around the same time, so I do the show, the music podcast for kids. A friend of mine, Bruce Fight, who's also an elementary music teacher, we teach in the same county. He also got information that day about it, and then we ended up. I said, Bruce, did you see this? And he was like, oh my gosh. And then he's like, actually, someone just texted me earlier about this, but I didn't know what it was about. So it was definitely a surprise to find that that the New York Times had written an article about our show. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's what you call a lovely surprise, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fabulous. So that little brief bio, is there anything that you wanted to add to that?
So, yeah, I mean, I'm a elementary music teacher. I've taught this is my 17th year. I live in Pennsylvania, but I teach for the Maryland system, so the public school system there, and teaching pre-K through 5th grade. So I do their general music class, but then I also have a chorus as well. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing day in and day out, just as an elementary music teacher.
Yes, it's an exhausting but wonderful job.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
So, in your years as a music educator, what would you consider a highlight or highlights of your journey so far?
Honestly, the YouTube channel and even the podcast has really been a highlight. It's been something that, leading up to doing YouTube and the podcast, I was creating things within the classroom, creating videos and using those within my classroom. Um, so to start to use those resources just on my own and seeing the reaction from kids was really a lot of fun and a highlight. And then to take it and put it on these platforms so that other people can connect with it, kids can connect with it, but then it's been really cool to see teachers connect with it and teachers using the resources and so that's been just pretty amazing. So I'd say those are a few highlights.
Yes, and it is magic, isn't it? That these really useful things, because I often think teaching's a little bit like we sit in our own little world and we
Hmm.
work and work and work and provide the best for our own children, whereas that could be shared. And
Right.
it not only helps save other classroom teachers doing all that work, it's providing them with something that they may not even have the skills to do or
Hmm.
the time to develop the skills.
Right.
So it just makes so much sense to be able to share.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So and that's just it's really great to just get an email from someone saying, "Oh man, I got to use this resource and the kids really loved it." And you get requests from people and I just it's such a cool ride that's going on right now. So,
Yeah, it's magic, isn't it? And
yeah.
sometimes you even get a message randomly from some pink-haired lady in Australia saying, "Hey, hey, this YouTube channel looks really cool. Could you come on my podcast?"
Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, and yeah, and just to sit here and be able to talk with someone across the world, and yeah, it's just it's really very cool.
It is, I agree. Very cool. Still blows my mind. I think it's wonderful. All right. I like to talk to all my guests about um, gratitude, things for which you're grateful,
Mm,
and people who've influenced you. I think it's lovely for people to hear about your music education journey and the wonderful resources you offer people like me to use in their classrooms. But I think it's also important to acknowledge that personal gratitude and people on your journey. I think it's important we stay grounded with some of that gratitude. And I love hearing that from people like you. So,
yeah.
could you share a bit about your gratitude and people who've influenced you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I'm very grateful for, my family, my wife and kids. They're super supportive of me and things that I do. And then my mom and dad also super supportive. They were both music majors. So it was definitely a part of my childhood. Um, Music was always, something that we were either performing all together as a family. So there was like we would be doing like my my mom was like the soprano, my sister was the alto, I was the tenor, my dad was the bass baritone,
Oh,
and we'd
wow.
be singing like four-part harmonies, at church and things like that. So it was always something that we were doing and my mom was a music education major. And so she taught elementary music, middle school. And so anytime, she would have access to Orff instruments and hand chimes and things like that. And so we'd be always playing with that stuff as well. So it was just always something that was a big part of my life. And I felt like it was kind of inevitable to turn into a music major and then teacher and all of that. So they're a huge influence. And they also they got me involved with some high performing choirs. There was I'm originally from Pittsburgh, and there's a choir out of there called the Children's Festival Chorus. It's different now, the name of it, but that's been long running for, for a while. And so I was able to be a part of that through 4th through 6th grade. And through that, I had a lot of influence from those teachers. Um, and then I was, lucky enough to take piano lessons. And so it's definitely heavily influenced from my teacher with taking piano. And then, as I went to college, I feel like that's where a lot of influence started to roll in, from professors, because, you're really starting to hone in on your craft. And there was actually one, I actually started as a music business major. And then
What were
eventually,
you thinking of doing business wise? What did you have in your mind?
you know, I I don't know. I think I just wanted to gain some sort of skills in business, just to have something like that. Going through the program, I started to find out, like, you could, I mean, they talked about different things. You could do a recording studio. You could end up, just working for like Guitar Center or something like that, being a manager or something.
Mhm.
So, as I started to kind of go through it, I was like, I don't really know, but I stuck with it. But then one of the professors, I took his class, and I had to give another kid a trumpet lesson. And at the end of it, he said, Bill, are you in music education? I
Mm.
said, no, no, I'm doing music business. He said, you need to do music education. And that was like a huge influence. That's actually really the thing that got me into it. I called up my dad like a week later. I'm like, yo, can I add music education? Knowing that it was going to take a little more time to get everything completed, because that was about halfway through. So he's like, I had a feeling you would ask that. So I ended up adding that. So that was a huge influence. And then once I got to student teaching, those two, my high school placement and elementary placement, had a huge influence. So super grateful for all of those people along the way, because those are, and like when I think, when we think of influencers, we think of like maybe someone famous or something like that. And I can't say that I have anyone like that, really. It's mostly the people that directly, I connected with throughout my time. So
Yes.
yeah.
Oh, that is wonderful. Now, I found you, as I said before, through your YouTube channel. Now, I will confess, I'm only just beginning to explore the YouTube
Yeah,
channel.
cool.
And you've told us about your podcast, which I'd love to hear about that. I'm going to have to tune in and have a listen. Obviously, I love podcasts.
Yeah.
Duh. Uh, so there's so many things that we can talk about. So what we'll make sure we do is I'll get a list of links from you to all of your wonderful stuff, and we'll put
Sure.
that in the show notes so that if people
Okay.
want to go further than what we can talk about, that would be great. Um, would Is there anything that you could elaborate on as a summary of your projects and creations, or could it be really simply summed up as my YouTube channel and my podcasts? Is is there more to sort of add to that list of projects and creations?
Yeah, I mean, those are definitely the two main things.
Mm.
The YouTube channel. So the YouTube channel's the Mr. Henry's Music World, and that's where I'm doing a bunch of rhythm play-alongs, Boomwhacker play-alongs, trying to do some different games and things like that. There's like animated shorts, which just describes simple things like a quarter note or a, half note, things like that. And then the podcast is, yeah, it's different in, I mean, it's called the Music Podcast for Kids, and that's something that teachers have been using in the classroom. And it's it's almost like the total opposite of the channel in a way, because the channel, Mr. Henry's Music World, is obviously very visual, right? They're videos, kids are engaged that way. But part of the mission with the podcast is to have kids use their imagination, and listen to, so it's like a story based type of
Mm.
podcast. It's not really us talking about like, oh, this is, we're trying to, we're talking about music and teaching about music, but we're doing it through like stories. So and actually like one of the episodes is we're talking about music from Australia, and we actually got to have, do you know Tim Topham? Are you familiar with him?
No, no.
Oh, okay. You got to check him out.
Okay,
Um, he's big in the like private lesson world, like for piano.
okay.
But and he's based in Australia. So we had him on the show and got to talk to him about, kind of some things that are going on there. But the story is basically Bruce and I were traveling to Australia, and we always find ourselves in these ridiculous situations. Like the only way we could get there was through a submarine, right? So we're traveling in a submarine, so there's these things that happen to us along the way, but of course we're talking about different aspects of music of Australia. So that's like an example of how that works. And so what's great about that is, and I have kids listen to the show in class, and they are all of them will say, Mr. Henry, where's the picture? It sounds like there should be a picture, but there's no picture. And it's supposed to enable kids to get a break away from the screen and listen, use their imagination. And so that's like a big part of the goal of that show. So yeah.
Yes, and I can see how we need that. I mean, just Friday, it must have been, or Thursday, I played a piece of music for something, and the children said to me, but I can't see it.
Right.
And no, this is just the music.
We're just listening.
They're so used to having the screen. So yeah, that's great. Oh, well, we will have to explore that. That sounds fabulous. I would like to have a chat to you about one of your, you've got four main types, you were saying, of your, is it four? Is it five? Five rhythm play alongs. I can't count. Boomwhacker play alongs. No, four.
Yeah.
Four corners and animated shorts. You've mentioned the animated shorts. So you might play that within a lesson to reinforce a concept that you've taught, just a different way of doing it. So I'd like to hear about one of these. I'd like to hear about all of them, actually, but we don't have forever. So I think, can you pick one and then just tell us a little about how you create them and then how teachers can use them? I mean, I have a YouTube channel and I love playing around and have some rhythm play alongs and bits and pieces. But
cool.
It takes so long to do one. You've got to say, right, this is my main thing. I'm going to spend this time, create these videos, and I know how long they can take. So I'd love to know a bit about your process, as well as some hints about how classroom teachers can get to use them.
Yeah, for sure. So the Boomwhacker play-alongs, that's something that I've been playing around with more recently. And most of them are not just strictly, they're just playing Boomwhackers the whole time. What I'm trying to do is incorporate, so a lot of the videos are these like rap videos, and those are usually the ones that a lot of people are using. So like recently I just had, it's Run Turkey Run is one of the recent ones, and that is, the kids are singing, but they're also playing along with Boomwhackers. Now, you could choose to not use the Boomwhackers. You could just teach the song and the kids could just sing along with that. But what's great, what I like doing is having the kids singing along with it, but also concentrating on using the Boomwhackers. So there's like a couple different, like within that one in particular, there's actually two lines that you could have. You could have one group doing the melody, they're just playing the bum 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 bum, while another group is playing the chords underneath. So you could actually, I mean, it could be pretty elaborate what you could do, or you could do none of that and just have them sing along with it and pad along, right? So there's a couple different levels that you could do just within that video. But then in that video, kids are also putting the boomwhackers down. They're standing up. They're doing body percussion. There's rhythm play along within there. So I'm trying to mix kind of all of it together.
Mm.
And the boomwhackers are just to get some extra playing going on in there. So that's something that I've been doing recently. In terms of the process, well, like you said, it does take a long time. The boomwhacker, the way that I'm creating the boomwhacker section of it in particular is I'm really just like I've made the boomwhacker notes with the different colors. And I've done that through a program I use called Snappa, which is an online program. And Snappa is basically, it's just a platform you can make thumbnails on there. And I mean, basically doing any sort of like digital kind of art. So I use that a lot. I'll create things and then you just download it and then I plug it into Final Cut Pro. So Final Cut Pro is the program that I use. I'm a Mac user. All of the music is created within Logic Pro. So that's just the like pro version of the name's escaping my mind right now of the Mac
GarageBand.
Yes, GarageBand. Yes. Yeah, so Logic Pro is the pro version of GarageBand essentially. So but yeah, usually my process once I have that, boomwhacker note, I put that in there and I start to arrange how I want it to look. I start to create backgrounds for it. And once I kind of have that set, then I'll be creating the music. Sometimes the music is coming before that. Typically it's coming before that. So I'm creating the music before that. And that really just gives me a lot of freedom. There's a lot of boomwhacker play-alongs where, people are just using tracks that are already written, which is totally cool. But with that, it's a little bit harder to dictate exactly what you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with this, I can choose the tempo. I can choose,
Yes.
the section, how I want it to go, how I want it to flow from this to that. So it really allows me to have that total control over what the kids are going to do within that lesson. So once I have like the music and an idea of what it's going to look like, then I start to get the guy or the object or whatever it is to start working on having it bounce on it. And so with that, I'm just going into Final Cut Pro and I'm specifically telling it where to move on the screen. And usually how I match it up with the music is I actually pull the music out completely and I just have like a click track. So if I know like, or I'll like, if the rhythm is not exactly, just going with a click track and it has that particular rhythm, I'll usually play the melody, but then I'll just strip down the music to where I only have that melody. So then now I
does
can
that
visually.
mean, sorry,
Go
does
ahead,
that mean you use the wave file, the audio wave file to help you match where the picture's going?
Exactly.
Okay.
So I can now see, so with that audio, I can see where it is. So now I can, tell it to jump on that particular note right when that music is going on. So that's another nice thing about creating the music is that I can just strip it down to where I can only see the melody of the part that is performed by the boomwhackers, So that just gives you a rough idea. I mean, there's a lot of more stuff going on, but that's a basic idea of really how it's put together.
No, that is great. And stripping that down, because that is one of, not that I use anything as flash as Logic Pro. I've got Camtasia. I'm a PC.
Okay.
But sometimes it's so difficult to line things up when the audio track is so dense.
Right.
I don't know if that's the right words, but you know what I mean.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought even a click track would make the biggest difference. A separate one.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You've saved me a bit of time in the future.
Yeah, definitely. A click track will definitely help that because visually you'll be able to see what's going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I zoom right in, zoom right in, and you try and isolate the one little wave that is actually on the beat. Yes.
Right.
So
Yep.
fabulous. Thank you. And how long
Sure.
do you reckon it take? No, look, that's a silly question. I want to ask you how long it takes you to create a video, but I know that that
Mhm.
question is like, how long is a piece of string, really? And it depends how focused
How
you
elaborate.
are. You know, if
Right,
you
right.
could you give it
Yeah,
a guess?
yeah, probably. Well, now see, I'm now I'm starting to get pretty good at it, and once you
Yes.
get good at it, I mean, like I know the formula. I know pretty much what I want to do. Um, but even with knowing what to do, it's probably a good 20 hours,
Mm,
just to do one. That's going to be ranging. That'll be like a 4 to 6 minute video, you know.
yeah. It's a
So
lot, isn't it? It's so
yeah,
much
it takes a
time.
lot. Yeah. Yeah, it does take a
All I
lot.
can say is thank you for sharing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So it
It's
makes
fun.
all
No,
that sense.
I really love it. I really love doing it. So,
Well, I'm
yeah.
glad you love doing it because we love using them. So there you go. Win-win. I love it. Oh, now as for teachers using them, um, I don't know. Most of them, I guess it's pretty obvious the way that you could use them, isn't it? Once you click on them. And more
Yes.
experienced teachers would go, like you said, actually, this is a bit complex for this year level. We'll just sing along and watch. And then the older kids, like you said, you can add layers. Would you have any
Sure.
other suggestions for teachers about using your videos?
Yeah, I mean, there's like the rhythm play alongs, for example, you could just have the kids just clap through it and that be it. But something that I'll do, like I have my classes in 5 lines. So I'll usually have 5 different instruments for each line. And typically in between the play alongs, there's a gap of time from one to the next. It's not just like a constant. So within that gap of time, the kids, they're trained at this point. They know what to do.
Mm.
They just switch. They switch those instruments, really quick so that, we get, playing those different instruments and getting used to how to play the hand drum and how to play the the rhythm sticks correctly and all that good stuff. So that's just another way you could do it. Instead of just clapping through it, you could have that switch of instruments so that kids get exposed to performing those.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. You know, one of my little things, I don't do it too often. Another really cool thing with rhythm play alongs is attach melody to it.
Oh
So they
yeah.
have to echo, but maybe improvising a melody using notes they know on whatever
Yeah.
instruments. You know, if they know G and E on recorder, then they
Right.
can play back the rhythm, improvising pitch. There's actually just so many things you can do, really.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, for sure.
So that's
Love it.
wonderful. Oh, well, I can just see so many people getting in and doing this. All right. We're up to my favorite question. All right. You ready? So you
Yeah.
give us some nuggets of fabulous. And I sort of say three, but it could be two, it could be five. It's up to you of your all time favorite resources or activities or songs or games or tricks or ideas or anything that you use when you work with your students.
Sure, yeah. Um, so one that comes to mind, and this is really kind of just like a classroom management trick. So
Mhm.
in my class, I have Mr. Henry Bucks, and so it's by a buck, I mean $1.
Oh, yeah,
So
bucks. Okay. I was just imagining you with a little kid on your back and you're bucking
yeah,
him off. No, I've
yeah,
got it
but
now. Thanks.
I had a feeling I might have to clear that up.
No,
So
no, we do
the
use the word bucks, but
oh, okay.
yeah.
So yeah, so Mr. Henry Bucks. So that's it's very simple. I mean, it's just a reward for answering questions correctly or participating, but it is just super effective. So, I mean, the hands are up all the time in terms of participation, even in 5th grade when they might be a little too cool for school. they don't ever seem to be too cool for Mr. Henry Bucks. And I have taught in some tougher schools. So yeah, so anytime I ask a music question or would someone want to sing this by themselves or whatever we're doing, I usually say it for Mr. Henry Buck. Can can someone answer this? And
And
the
what
hands,
actually is a Mr. Henry's buck?
yeah. So it's basically just like a cutout. It's there's a picture of me in the middle. I have like the dollar signs around me, and yeah, it's just, and then they have a place to put their name. And so if they get a Mr. Henry Buck, usually at the end of class, they put their first and last name, they put it into a bucket. And at the end of each quarter, I pick two names from that bucket. And if your name's picked, you win a music prize. So I have like recorders that I give away. I have ukuleles that I've purchased that I just give those away to the kids if they win the Mr. Henry Buck, and I do that every quarter. So it's super simple. There was a point in time when I was at a smaller school where I had like a Mr. Henry's store. And so they would actually keep their bucks and
Yeah.
then they could come in and they could buy, but that just got too crazy.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of a super easy way to do it. So, any teacher out there, if you can just call it, your name with your face in the middle there, and it's a lot of fun. So that's one thing that, if you want to get all those hands in the air, that's one way you could do it. Um another so I love teaching the recorder,
Mhm.
and I I do have some recorder videos up on the YouTube channel as well, which the kids are really enjoying. Um, but to help with kids with their airflow, something that I like to do is I use ping pong balls, and we put them on drums, and they get a straw. And there's kind of like a couple different levels the kids go through. They'll be in groups, and usually group of 3 or 4. And one of the things we do first is just say, all right, you have to blow all of the balls off of the platform. It could be any platform. I just use the hand drums. So they just blow them all off. Then the next challenge is, okay, let's try, and you'll just have one ping pong ball. And let's work as a group to keep the ping pong ball on the platform. And whoever keeps that on there the longest, that group gets a Mr. Henry Buck, right? So you do that. Then you get every kid's ping pong ball on the platform, and you say, okay, now all of the ping pong balls have to stay on the platform, but you also have to keep them moving. So what they're doing with this straw while they're doing that is they're really experiencing the type of air that they're supposed to use when playing the recorder. And this is really, I don't even talk to them about the recorder. This is just a game that we're doing. And then, of course, it's linked back when we actually start performing the recorder. And it really is a great way to not only have them understand how it's supposed to feel, but then to always like recall that when you're teaching. So that's a fun way to get kids to experience the correct kind of airflow you need. So that Bruce, the guy I do the podcast with, he always says that I can't take this. This is what he always says. He's like, the first time we do recorders, it's kind of like a teapot convention. So but eventually we get them there, and so, but this is a way to kind of like avoid that, when they're just just
Mhm. Mhm.
blown. So yeah, so that's a little nugget there.
Yeah, I love
um
that nugget.
and yeah, let's see, favorite game. The kids have been, there's a game that I recently made. It's the Turkey Lurkey game, and that's been a lot of fun. That game is, there's actually two versions of that game. On YouTube is the one version, it's the dynamics version. And basically, um someone's the turkey, someone's the farmer, and the farmer has to find the turkey by listening to if they are close to the turkey or not close to the turkey. And the way that it's done is through dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's soft, they're far away. If
Yep.
they're loud, it's so that's been a lot of fun. But there's another version of that game that I have too, where kids are listening. So the whole class is clapping a rhythm, but the farmer's not able to see the rhythm that's clapped on the board. So it's like a rhythm play along. And then every kid has a card, and only one of those cards has the rhythm that was clapped. So the farmer is listening for the rhythm, and they have to then they get about 30 seconds to scan through the 25 cards to figure out which rhythm was clapped. So that's another like version of that game, and it's tied in with that Turkey Lurkey song. So
I like that. So the one with
yeah,
the matching rhythm is the turkey, I am assuming.
exactly. Yes. Yep.
And then do they
That's
get
right.
to be the farmer?
Yeah. Well, then the farmer ends up picking the next person. And if the farmer does it correctly, I usually give that student 2 Mr. Henry bucks for that. And then they pick the next. Now the video actually dictates who is the turkey, because it tells what rhythm is going to be given to next, and every rhythm card has a number on it. So it'll like it displays on the screen, card 7 will be next, so that the person who was the turkey has to deliver the turkey to that card number 7 while the next farmer is closing their eyes. But the video kind of like brings you all through that. So
Okay.
so those are a few.
They are great nuggets. I really like that. That's great. I think we could chat lots and lots more, but
Yeah.
we are up to this. This is about advocacy, and I have a few colleagues in the States I talk to, and I gather it varies a little depending where you are, like it does in Australia. But we do seem these days to have to fight quite hard in some cases just for the existence of music programs, because we know how amazingly wonderful they are for our children, not just musically, for everything, cognitive, social, emotional.
Right.
It cannot be provided through any other subject. And I just think it's essential. So how do you feel as music educators we can help advocate for our subject?
Sure. Yeah. Well, what's interesting about that, I think now more than ever, the arts and music is so super important because, and I'm sure everyone says that, but this is why I think that, there's and this kind of ties it in with the whole YouTube thing. YouTube is what they call the creator economy, right? And in the national standards here in the US, one of our standards in music is creating. Like that's a standard that we have. And so here you have a $1 billion industry called the creator economy that's done on social media, YouTube, and people are able to make a full-time living as creators. And here we are with a curriculum that promotes creativity, and that's in music. So I really think that this could be something that is discussed with administration, whoever who's trying to derail a music program, to say, hey, you need to keep this, because this is becoming an essential part of our society, where we need people who are creative, and people who are creative can only get to that creativity by being tested through it. And music is the way that we can do that. The arts is the way that we can do that. So there's really I don't ever really know what the excuse was. Is it because people think that you can't make a living as a musician? I don't even know, like, what's the reasoning as to why you don't want to have the program in there. Like, I think that's probably what it is. So if that is the case, we have this fairly new economy called the creator economy, which you can't deny is here, and it's here to stay, and it needs people and it needs kids. I mean, if you ask a kid what they want to be when they grow up, a lot of them say they want to be a YouTuber.
Yep,
Like,
yep.
this is because this is not going away, and it's definitely, and it's something that you can make a living doing. So I just think that's why I say now more than ever, there's no reason to not have it. And if that were the reason, saying that it's because it's not going to allow someone to have a good living, and to be able to make money. And it's just not true anymore. You
Mm-mm.
can, and you can do it with something that you really love. And I'm definitely an example of that. Like, having the platform YouTube has allowed me to create things and do things. And it's not a ton of income, but it's not anything to, like, it's something that can be if you keep doing it. I mean, it's not easy. It's not like it's, this easy ticket to fortune or anything like that. I mean, it takes work and you have to be dedicated to it. But it definitely is something that allows um, kids to express themselves. And that's why I think we're more important than ever. So,
I love it. That's definitely an excellent counter to that argument that yes, it's not
right.
really. I think the other big argument that I think for the diminishing of the programs
Yeah.
is that we just need to spend more time on literacy and numeracy, but not
Mm.
realizing, of course, the ignorance of that statement, because things like
Yeah.
music, we know for a fact actually helps with literacy.
Right. Well, it is literacy,
It
right?
is
I mean,
absolutely literacy.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's using so many parts of the brain that others do not.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Yeah. It's just, there
Yes,
really is no reason to not have it. There should be more reason to have it at this point. So,
I agree. I absolutely agree. Okay, I feel this connection. It's funny when you meet someone for the first time, even via Zoom. I just have this immediate feeling of connection. It's okay, Bill. You don't have to say that this is reciprocated. I'm just
no, it is.
saying that from me, it's someone who does my job, who works with children, and experiences creating music with children. There's just
Yeah.
there's a I was thinking about it this morning before we got on the Zoom. I thought, I'm going to use the word connection. There is a connection that's there for me automatically, because
Yeah.
I know that this person I'm talking to on the other side of the world knows the same um, feelings and knows the importance of what we do, So,
Yep.
yeah, it's coming right back at me. Love it.
Absolutely.
Now, one more question before we go.
Sure.
And we'll have to do it again sometime, assuming my
Yeah, definitely.
podcast goes on, which I hope it will. And
Yeah.
I hope people are loving listening to all the great people I get to talk to. Yay. All right, you get to get on your soapbox. So
Mm,
I like to offer my guests a chance to tell the world something that is important for you to say.
sure. Um, I really think that creating is, to be able to create is the it's really, actually, it's the thing I feel like that kind of saved me a little bit. Excuse me. My throat's kind of, I need, like, to drink a
No,
little
have a water. Here, I'll have a water too. Here we go. Water break, everyone.
bit. There we go. Okay. So yeah, I think creating was a thing that as I was teaching, I became more and more just kind of feeling burnt out. But
Mhm.
then I started to create my own resources and to see how that helped the kids in the classroom, and to know that like what I created this spark for the kids was really just like, oh man, like I just got so much more excited to teach.
Mhm.
So I think if teachers out there, if you're starting to feel that kind of burnout, to try and just step back and spend even and it's going to take a little more time, but to be able to create your own game or song that you can use in the classroom, it just becomes way more fun.
Mhm.
So, I just think and we're all natural creators to begin with and performers. So don't let that go away, and in fact try and embrace it, and and then now, and now you can even share it, via YouTube or what have you. So create. That's my soapbox.
Oh, that is amazing. And it is so true. It is
Mhm.
an antidote for that burnout. I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I love that. That is a perfect note to finish on. It is absolutely delightful to meet you, Mr. Henry. And
Thank
please
you.
go on producing for us, please.
You got it. Sounds great.
As we know, laughter relieves stress. Don't lose sight of the funny side of life. What's Whitney Houston's favourite type of coordination? You ready for it? Here we go. Hand eye. I'll try that one again. Hand eye. I can't do it. Okay, I'm going to try it just one more time. Okay. Hand eye. Oh, for goodness sake. Hand eye. Yeah, it's a terrible joke. Thank you so much for watching our Crescendo Music Education podcast. For more information about all things Crescendo, including membership and music education resources, visit us at crescendo.com.au. Don't forget to like and subscribe.